Besides, it's nice and warm inside.
Let's go, Buck. Okay, suit yourself. Now that we're using Buctril herbicide, old Buck doesn't even check the corn anymore because Buctril gives us real good control of cuckleburr, velvet leaf, and other broadleaves. And with Buctril, there's no vapor drift, so it won't burn my beans. Speaking of vapors. Oh, I can't believe this.
When it comes to controlling broadleaf weeds in corn, nothing measures up to Buctril.
Come on, Buck, open the door, buddy. Come on. Oh, don't you lay down on me, buddy.
At Kitchens by Design, we do one thing better than anyone else.
We design the most beautiful kitchens in all of Central Iowa.
Using the superior craftsmanship and innovative styling of Durasupreme cabinetry,
Our designers will create a functional kitchen to fit your lifestyle, whether you're building or remodeling.
come visit Kitchens by Design in Ames, Fort Dodge, and our new showroom in Governor Square, West Des Moines.
Kitchens by Design, our name says it all.
After work, after rush hour, when you get home, Live at 5 is there. Jim Strickland and Lori Groves bring you the news from Iowa, the nation, and around the world. Ed Wilson's Live First Forecast will help you plan your evening's activities. Live at 5, your first source for the day's news and weather on News Center 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day.
Recapping our top story, Libyan radio is reporting that a plane carrying PLO leader Yasser Arafat has disappeared from radar. The plane was flying over Libyan airspace when it was first discovered missing. The radio quotes civil aviation sources as saying that Tripoli lost contact with Arafat's plane because of bad weather conditions.
Gary's back, and our weather isn't bad at all.
Not really. A few clouds will roll in, of course, by morning, but temperature-wise, we stay nice right on through the weekend. Mostly cloudy when you wake up. A little cooler than this morning, right around 40.
Finally tonight, nearly 2,000 high school students in Des Moines competing for the state's top jazz title. Right now, you're listening to the Williamsburg High School Jazz Band, just one of 78 ensembles from across the state competing in the 92 Iowa Jazz Championships. And they're running a little late tonight, so we don't have the name of the winning ensemble, but boy, we heard one earlier at 6, sounded equally good.
Right. That would be quite a night of entertainment to be down there.
Yeah, we should have thought about that.
We should have.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Good night.
For around-the-clock news headlines in the Des Moines area, watch News Center 13 on Heritage Cable Channel 30, twice each hour.
Some people, after paying lots of money for furniture, try to save a little money by taking it home with them. Now, we at Redeker Furniture in Boone certainly applaud their efforts to economize, but it's not necessary. Redeker's in Boone offers free delivery.
Free delivery?
Free delivery anywhere in Iowa. So when you buy from Redeker's in Boone, you not only get a great deal on quality furniture, your furniture arrives at your home in one piece. We deliver free. That's the only way we know how to deliver furniture. Redeker's in Boone.
The air conditioner, it's out there purring like a kitten. Things solid as a rock. Never think about it.
The best time to think about your air conditioning is now. So call your Carrier dealer today. We're the guys who know best when it comes to making it better inside.
Hi, I'm Steve Morrell. I'm no actor. I'm a heating and cooling specialist. For rebates for up to $800 from Iowa Power and Carrier on qualifying air conditioners and heat pumps, call us at Morrell Heating and Cooling, 240-0581.
News Center 13, where the news comes first, 24 hours a day.
The Tonight Show with guest host Jay Leno and Late Night with David Letterman will be seen in 25 minutes following this NBC News special.
Wisconsin, Bill Clinton, a big winner tonight in New York, the primary that he had to win.
And Kansas. Long and as
Jerry Brown in trouble in New York, but vowing to go on with this campaign of insurgency.
Opportunity.
And Paul Tsongas, will he get back into this race?
If Clinton doesn't do very well and you do...
From NBC News, Decision 92, a special report. Here from New York is Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. On the stock car circuit, there's something known as a Wreckham Derby. The last car moving is the winner. Well, the New York presidential primary has been the political equivalent of a Wreckham Derby, with Bill Clinton and Jerry Brown crashing into each other. But in the end, Clinton's wheels didn't come off. He finished comfortably ahead of Brown. Brown, in fact, skidded badly in New York, finishing behind Paul Tsongas, who got out 2 weeks ago. But his campaign remained in the race without a driver, and tonight, Tsongas the Phantom finished second in New York. Thursday or Friday, he says, he'll announce whether he gets back into this race full time. President Bush, for his part, won all of his contested primaries tonight, but with a continuing strong protest vote on the Republican side as well. Let us show you now some of the other states besides New York. In Kansas, our projected winner, Bill Clinton, as you can see he has finished well ahead of Paul Tsongas, who finished second there as well. That's the vote in Kansas. Now, among the rest of the field there, Jerry Brown well back, none shown. That's the pure protest vote in Kansas. That finishes ahead of Jerry Brown. Not a good night for him in Kansas, where he virtually did not campaign at all. In Wisconsin, we have a very tight race. Bill Clinton with a narrow lead over Jerry Brown. As you can see, roughly half the votes have been counted there so far. Again, Paul Tsongas, who has suspended his campaign, hangs in there with more than 20% of the vote. In Minnesota, this was essentially a beauty contest. No delegates were at stake here. They were just stating their preference, and Bill Clinton is our projected winner in Minnesota as well. That's another state where Jerry Brown thought that he would be doing well. What counts ultimately are convention delegates. 2,145 required for the Democratic presidential nomination here in New York. As you can see, Bill Clinton is now more than halfway there. The uncommitted ahead of Tsongas and Brown. Brown with only 260 delegates, and if he wants the nomination, he has to pile up a good deal more delegates than he is able to so far, or virtually what he'll be able to get between now and the time of the convention. This is what Bill Clinton had to say to his supporters here in New York tonight after returning from Arkansas to share the victory.
I love Wisconsin and Minnesota and Kansas, and I really love New York. These last 2 weeks have been like a ride on the Coney Island cyclone. Ups and downs and twists and turns. But now that I've been through it all, I've got to admit, I had a ball.
And there is Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton live. Congratulations, Governor. I suspect that you say that you had a ball, in fact, because you emerged first in this very tough primary.
It was a tough fight, but you know, the people here really gave me a listen. They were willing to open their hearts and minds. We did something which apparently had not been done before by getting a majority of both Jewish and African-American voters and pluralities throughout the New York electorate, upstate and downstate, in the city and in the country. The kind of coalition for change I've been trying to build. And yeah, they put me through a rough test, but in the end, they let me come out ahead, and I'm grateful to them.
Governor Paul Tsongas didn't even campaign here, and he finished second to you. He's now saying that he may get back into this race. Does that surprise you?
No, he's got a lot of support, particularly in this part of the country, and his organization did a fine job in the last 3 or 4 days. They had television campaigns. They had an exhaustive polling operation on Election Day. He did the newspaper interviews, and And, you know, let's face it, he's got a distinctive message, and he deserves the respect of the country for being the first Democrat to challenge George Bush when he was still well over 70% in the approval polls. So I think that Senator Tsongas has a place in the history of this campaign, and he certainly has a place in the future of this campaign if he chooses to re-enter. Whether there is another or 2 more or 5 more candidates, I want to go on to Pennsylvania and all these other states and give the voters there a chance to listen, to examine me, to listen to the message of change, and give me a chance to learn from them. I will respect whatever decision he makes, and will certainly understand whichever decision he makes.
Governor, there's a report tonight from your campaign that you're thinking of going to Peoria, Illinois tomorrow to get involved in that dispute between Caterpillar Tractor and the United Auto Workers Union. Is that true?
I wouldn't get involved in the dispute. That's for the parties to resolve. I do think it's a very sad thing that it's come to this, because people who are legally on strike can be fired from their jobs even though they're legally striking over health care benefits. The point I want to make, and I'd like to make it tonight, is that we are the only major country in the world that does not control health care costs for business and industry and people and provide affordable health care to all. And if we did that, that wouldn't be occurring there in Illinois tonight. It is a tragedy, and it's part of the arrogance and neglect of this administration that they refuse to do what the Germans and the other Europeans, what the Japanese and the other Asian countries have done. We're out of step in the United States. We're not going to be able to compete or to be a humane country until we solve this problem.
Governor, very briefly, one of the men that you most admired died this week, Sam Walton, who of course founded Walmart. He's from your home state of Arkansas. He fought off the unions in your state. You've had very little experience, and suddenly you're a big friend of big labor.
No, I've never been an enemy of big labor. Most of the industrial unions in my state are supporting me because I've fought to maintain high-wage jobs, whether union or non-union. What I'm trying to say to business and labor is, hey, you got to get together. You got to look at these other countries. We're all on the same team: government, business, labor, education. We've got to organize to create a high-wage economy. And if we permit ourselves to be divided business against labor, then in the end, neither side will win. We'll have lower wages and weaker economic growth.
Thank you very much. Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, the big winner in New York tonight. Now standing by is former California Governor Jerry Brown. According to our projections, he will finish 3rd in New York behind Paul Tsongas. There is no way, Governor Brown, that you can say that this is any kind of a victory for Jerry Brown in New York.
Well, whoever said it was. If you only get 25%, that's 26, whatever it is. But a month ago, you would have never, in your fondest dreams, ever thought I'd get this many votes, Tom, and you know it.
Well, the fact of the matter is that just 2 weeks ago that you won the Connecticut primary. You continued to insist that you had a campaign of insurgency that was only going to surge after your big victory in Connecticut. Now, after the New York voters got to know you better, they in fact decided that they didn't like it very much. They rejected especially the flat tax idea.
Well, the flat tax is a darn good idea. It may have to be improved. We have to communicate the notion of it, its fairness, its simplicity. We took a lot of slings and arrows here. We gave a lot. We've got a long way to go, but I'll tell you, we're not stopping. We're going to Pennsylvania. We're going to Virginia. We're going out to Illinois and standing with the striking workers out there. As I said before, Tom, this is a movement. It's a cause. We're not going to clean up New York or change America unless we can mobilize millions of people who are on the sidelines. The biggest vote tonight was a vote of no confidence. They didn't show up. So I've got my work cut out for me, but so do you, so do all of us in this political process that doesn't enjoy a lot of credibility out there.
Thank you very much, Governor Jerry Brown.
426-1112, folks. Call that 800 number, will you? That's what keeps us going.
We might have short-circuited it if you hadn't gotten that on the air tonight. Jerry Brown with his famous 1-800 number tonight. Paul Tsongas was at his home in Massachusetts. He was surprised by his strong finish here. He said that he'll decide on Thursday or Friday and make an announcement about whether he gets back into the race. This is some of what Paul Tsongas had to say tonight.
No, the spoiler issue remains. I'm not in this business to be a spoiler. And so a lot of the analysis that has to take place is what do these numbers mean? I know what they mean in terms of my vote. What I don't know is what does it mean in terms of the other votes, and how do other Democrats around the country feel about all this?
Have you heard from
Barry Feinstein, who is the leader of the Teamsters Union here in New York City and did support Jerry Brown, said tonight the overwhelming message from New York voters, they don't like any of these people. We'll be back with more after this.
Portions of Decision 92 are being brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Ford Cars and Trucks. Have you seen what's new for 92? Have you driven a Ford lately? And by the Discover card, the card it pays to use because it pays you cash back for every purchase. So don't settle for less. Remember, it pays to Discover.
Sold.
Let's say you bought a painting. Let's say Van Gogh's sunflowers. Let's say you used the Discover card. You'd have a little money coming back because with the Discover card, every single charge earns an annual cashback bonus. Nice. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
When redesigning the Ford Taurus wagon, we gave it the kind of shape that holds your attention, available anti-lock brakes that hold on slick roads, and a newly restyled instrument panel that holds more than convenient controls. Available dual airbags, a Ford Motor Company exclusive in this class, because we know Ford Taurus wagon will also be holding you.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
All across America, more people repurchase Kenmore appliances than any other brand. In fact, over 1 out of 2 homes in the country count on Kenmore. And now at Sears Brand Central, save $45 and get a free ice maker with this huge 21 cubic foot Kenmore top mount. Save $125 on our 20 cubic foot side-by-side with ice and water dispenser, only at the store you trust.
An allergy attack can start small. Itchy eyes, stuffy nose. But before you know it, your allergy is full grown. That's when you need Dimetap, the allergy medicine. If it was any stronger, you'd need a prescription. Maximum strength Dimetap Extend tabs work for 12 full hours. It's the way to relieve the congestion and sneezing of a full-grown allergy attack. Dimetap, relief for the full-grown allergy attack.
On the Republican side, this was a very good night for President George Bush. He was uncontested in New York, and we want to show you the vote now in Wisconsin as well. As you can see, the president with about half the vote counted so far, rolling up a very sizable total. Still, Pat Buchanan and David Duke, their totals almost 20%. In Kansas, virtually all the vote has been counted so far. The president less than 2/3. None shown. That is a pure protest vote. That means the Kansas Republicans said we would rather have almost anyone else than the choice of Pat Buchanan or George Bush. Pat Buchanan, 15% of the vote. In Minnesota, 2/3 of the vote counted there so far. George Bush with a more than 2-to-1 margin over Pat Buchanan. But the protest vote on the Republican side running from 20 to 30%, virtually primary in and primary out. That's the case again tonight. NBC's John Chancellor is with us now. He has been looking over the results of our voter surveys, why people voted the way they did. John, what did you find tonight?
Well, Tom, as you know, we polled thousands of voters in 4 states, and we found again that it's not a happy electorate. 2 out of 3 Democrats who voted today had some sorts of reservations about their votes. About half the Republican voters feel the same way, and more than 6 out of 10 Democrats said they'd like someone else to get in the race for president. We asked Democrats how they felt about honesty and integrity. Jerry Brown came out ahead of Bill Clinton on that score by about 10 points. But by that same margin, Democrats believe that Clinton is more level-headed and practical than Brown. Brown's criticism of the political system went over very well with Democratic voters. 73% agreed with Brown, while only 21% disagreed. There was no Republican vote in New York State, but George Bush got the approval of 2 out of 3 Republicans in Minnesota and Wisconsin. In Kansas, Mr. Bush's job rating was down to just 53%. In all these states, 2 out of 3 Republicans told us that Pat Buchanan is saying things George Bush needs to hear. 2 wild cards today. Paul Tsongas didn't campaign as an active candidate, but he got more than 1/4 of the voters we polled today who said they want Tsongas to re-enter the race. And then there's Ross Perot. We asked if people would vote for him in November. 22% of the Republicans and 25% of the Democrats we polled today said they would vote for Perot if he were on the ballot next fall. His supporters are middle-aged and older, an age group that votes. middle-income voters, which means most of the electorate, mainly high school graduates or people with some college. Nobody knows if Ross Perot will make a run for it, Tom, but we learned today that he's got plenty of support from the kind of people who turn out for presidential elections.
Well, of course, he's in the ideal situation. They don't know a whole lot about him right now.
That's absolutely right.
What's happening.
They will.
Thank you very much, John Chancellor. With me now, of course, is our Washington Bureau Chief Moderator of Meet the Press, Tim Russert, who does analysis for us on these presidential election nights. They do know a lot more about Jerry Brown, and the more they find out about him, the less they like him.
Do they ever? Tom, Jerry Brown, if he won every delegate remaining in the primaries and superdelegates, he cannot win this nomination. It just doesn't add up. What Brown has to decide is that he want to continue to be the protest candidate, the candidate of change, or does that become suddenly a candidate of a double agent for George Bush, a spoiler?
Do you think he'll stay in?
I do. I don't think he cares.
I think he will as well. What about Paul Tsongas? Does he get back in now?
I bet no. I think Paul Tsongas realizes in Illinois he only got 26% of the vote. Michigan, he got Michigan 17% of the vote. Pennsylvania is much more like those states. I think he'll take his glory tonight and not re-enter.
There were lots of questions about Bill Clinton's character in the voter surveys that we did. About 40% of the voters said that they're just not happy about his honesty. But in pure political terms, big victory for him tonight. How does he capitalize on this, especially as he heads for Pennsylvania in 2 weeks?
Bill Clinton only has to win every other delegate in the remaining primaries or amongst the superdelegates. Ron Brown now has a decision to make. Does he move those superdelegates to Clinton as soon as possible, which will give Brown another issue, that he's the establishment candidate, or does he keep Clinton on the field and get bloodied? I think Brown should move very quickly. I think he will move quickly. And I think Clinton has to say, I am the nominee. You may not be satisfied with me, but that's the reality.
The superdelegates, of course, are the members of Congress and the party officials around the country.
Democratic National Committee officials, mayors, people throughout the country. There's 772 of them. About 400 are undecided, Tom. But Ron Brown and others can move them quickly. Their only concern about Clinton is they assume he's going to be the nominee. They're afraid of another scandal. But my guess is that Ron Brown will move quickly and try to get this thing wrapped up. The longer Clinton stays on the battlefield with Jerry Brown, the greater a chance that he is not going to be able to overcome this character issue.
All right. Well, this has resembled a street fight all season long. It's not going to come to an end anytime soon. We'll be back with more on a big international story in just a moment.
When we made the best-built, best-selling Ford full-size pickup more stylish, we also made it a more comfortable place for people. Club Wagon's been totally redesigned around people. And only Ford offers drivers airbags in both mini and full-size vans. Ford redefined the word truck, but we didn't forget who made us #1.
More people are driving the best-built, best-selling American trucks than ever before.
If you're using a credit card to get a cash advance, you're probably getting soaked. Because ordinary cards charge you interest. Right from day one, which is why you should use the Discover card. Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll give you cash, interest-free. So you can avoid taking a bath. It pays to Discover.
The stranger and his trusty grill stood ready for the fight. Other sauces against Bullseye to see which tasted right. And as the smoke rose off his grill, Hunt's was laid to waste. Then Masterpiece and Heinz dropped out against Bullseye Big Bold Taste. Yes, the stranger had won the day with a sauce that beat the rest. The Big Bold Taste of Bullseye tastes the best. And now there's Bullseye's Bold and Chunky with big chunks of onion and green peppers.
All over America, more people repurchase Kenmore appliances than any other brand. In fact, over 1 out of 2 homes in the country count on Kenmore. Our Kenmore Ultra Wash 2 cleans dishes better than any other dishwashing system, or will refund your money plus $25. And now you can save $54 on America's largest usable capacity washer with 7 cycles, including permanent press and matching Kenmore dryer, only at the store you trust.
There is another major story that we are following tonight. A plane carrying PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat and 11 other people missing from the skies over the trackless Libyan desert. Libyan officials reported that contact was lost with this plane more than 9 hours ago now as it approached the town of Saraa in southern Libya. Night had fallen and a freak sandstorm forced the plane to attempt an emergency landing about 15 minutes before it was due in Saraa. Aboard the plane with Arafat were 3 crew members, a team of bodyguards, and administrative assistants. Arafat, who is 62 years old, has run the PLO for almost a quarter of a century now. Joining me to discuss the implications of all of this, Middle East correspondent Martin Fletcher, who is in Tel Aviv tonight, and our Chief State Department correspondent John Dancy. John, what's the latest from the State Department on all of this?
Tom, the State Department is watching this, trying to gain information, as is the President. Reporters saw the President a couple of hours ago and asked him about it, and he said, all we know is what we read on the wires right now. The problem is the sandstorm, which apparently is continuing. They're making it very difficult to find out anything about what's going on. We may know, in fact, more than the State Department does at this point. Our office in Cairo has been in touch with Bassem Abu Sharif, who is one of Arafat's chief lieutenants in Tunis, and he told us just a few minutes ago that just before the contact was lost with the plane, that Arafat himself came on the tower and on the radio and talked to the Saraa tower and said that because of the sandstorm, they were going to have to, they were facing bad weather. The pilot then took the radio and said they were going to have to try a forced landing. At that point, they were about 50 miles away from Saraa, and one assumes that that is where the plane has gone down. Bassem Abu Sharif says he has asked the United States, Britain, and France to use their satellites to try to locate the airplane. But a big question is whether or not it was carrying what is called an ELT, an emergency locator transmitter, which would make it easier for the satellites to spot the plane.
John Dancy, the chances of a small executive jet making an emergency landing in a sandstorm in the Libyan desert and surviving seem to me to be very remote indeed.
Indeed, very remote, Tom. And if, in fact, Arafat is gone, he is dead, then it raises all sorts of specters of international problems. One, within Fatah itself, who would then become the leader, and what would their bent be? How would they feel about the Middle East peace talks, for example, which are underway at this moment?
John Dancy, let's go to Martin Fletcher in Tel Aviv. He keeps track of the comings and goings within the PLO. What about that, Martin? We don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. We still don't know what the fate of Yasser Arafat is, but what if, in fact, he's gone?
Well, Tom, the real problem is that Yasser Arafat wasn't just leader of the PLO. He was the PLO. He founded it, and 2 of the people who founded it with him and would have been seen as natural successors, they're dead. Abu Jihad, he was killed by the Israelis. Abu Iyad, he was killed by Abu Nidal. So there's no clear successor to Yasser Arafat, and that's going to be the first question that the Palestinians will have to address if it's confirmed, of course, that Yasser Arafat is dead. And the betting here is that there'll be a sort of compromise, eminence grise, an older candidate, someone like Farouk Kaddoumi, who could see the PLO over this difficult phase and also continue the peace process, which, of course, will be the next issue that needs to be resolved.
All right, thank you very much, Martin Fletcher, tonight in the Middle East, and thank you as well to John Dancy on the reported disappearance of Yasser Arafat in a light plane, an executive jet trying to make an emergency landing in a sandstorm in southern Libya. Back to American politics. In Wisconsin, NBC News can now project Bill Clinton the winner in Wisconsin as well. He won Kansas and New York. A big night for Governor Bill Clinton, clearly establishing him as the front runner. However, not all of his wounds have healed so far. He goes on to Pennsylvania in just 2 more weeks. We'll have continuing coverage tomorrow morning on NBC News at sunrise with Paul Majors, followed by Today. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night on NBC Nightly News.
A new Eyewitness Video Wednesday after Unsolved Mysteries.
Come celebrate the big one on the big one all April long. Free birthday bucks plus specials and the birthday cakes on us. The 1-year-old President Riverboat Casino.
Shop Champion Sports for your favorite baseball, softball, and soccer brands and authentic licensed apparel. Champion Sports, your official rollerblade sales and rental headquarters. Champion Sports, Haymarket Mall and Park Fair Mall.
It takes a real expert to be a Midas suspension technician, but it doesn't take one to recognize our great suspension deal. Now buy 1 Shocker strut, get the second for 50% off.
This 24-hour news update is brought to you by Azteca Dessert Shells.
Good evening, I'm Kim Kerrigan. In the news at this hour, an executive jet carrying PLO Chief Yasser Arafat disappeared in bad weather tonight. This is what we know at this hour. The plane disappeared 15 minutes before landing in southern Libya. It had taken off from the Sudan. Libyan authorities say contact with the plane was lost during a sandstorm. Sources in his office refuse to speculate on what happened, but they do say, however, the plane may have landed in the desert. They've asked international aviation authorities to help locate the plane. We'll have more news next hour.
From Hollywood, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Johnny's guest host is Jay Leno. This is Doc Severinsen, along with the NBC Orchestra, inviting you to join Jay and his guests, Sybil Shepherd. From Law and Order, Chris Snow. The music of Mark Chestnut and model Lisa Taylor. And now, here